Hi there. As a sport management professional, there will be many times throughout your career when change will happen, whether it is something that you help create or something that may be forced upon you. In either case, it is important that you understand that change and how you can help yourself and others through any transition. As a leader, managing change has become one of the most important management skills needed throughout a person's career. In the first section, we will discuss the theory of change management through Kurt Lewin's model. And then I will discuss two change models that you can put into practice. One of the earliest models having to do with change management comes from Kurt Lewin, who is often called the father of social psychology. He spent his time considering how human behavior ties to our society norms. This model was the cornerstone for understanding organizational change and the first to involve the impact of employees through his thinking of group dynamics and organizational development, which was all very revolutionary at the time. His theory was developed in the 1940s, and when we think about what was happening in the United States during that time, we were just coming out of the Great Depression, we were heading into World War II, and industry was beginning to explode and manufacturing was becoming important to the success of the war effort. His theory was called the unfreeze, change, refreeze model and is often described as a metaphorical block of ice. So this block of ice example helps us explain his theory. So assume that you have a large block of ice and you need to make ice cubes. The first stage is called unfreeze. So using your large block of ice, this stage of change involves preparing the organization to accept that change is necessary, and that this part of the change process is usually the most difficult and stressful. When you start cutting down the way things have always been done, you put everyone and everything off balance. You may evoke strong reactions and change, and that's exactly what needs to happen. The change is the second step, or in the ice model, moving from the large block of ice, melting it into water. So after the uncertainty created in the unfreeze stage, the change stage is where people begin to resolve their uncertainty and look for new ways to do things. The transition from unfreeze to change does not happen overnight. Much like the slow melting of an ice block, this can be a painful stage for some as they recognize that the status quo they have may no longer exist. People need time to embrace the new direction and participate proactively in the change. And as a leader, you need to identify ways people can be involved. In order to accept the change and contribute to making it successful, people need to understand how it will benefit them. And finally, we're able to refreeze that water to make our ice cubes. This third step requires a refreeze. When the changes are taking shape and people have embraced the new ways of working, the organization is then ready to refreeze. The refreeze stage also needs to help people and the organization internalize and institutionalize the changes. This means making sure that the changes are used all the time and that they are incorporated into everyday business. This theory helped leaders understand that there is a process to making changes within the company and how important it is to help employees through it in order to sustain the change is beneficial to the goals of the company. So what does this mean for us? We have gained an understanding of the theoretical framework for change, and we now are ready to understand how following a change model can be helpful. A change model allows us to follow prescribed and sometimes sequential steps to facilitating change. There are many different change models that can be used. For this lecture, I have chosen two of those models that are available to outline two sport management scenarios in hopes that you can use them when you are faced with change in the future. John Kotter was born in 1947 and is a New York Times bestselling author that focuses on leadership and change. He created the 8-step change model in 1996. Let's walk through this change model using the example of a basketball shoe company. Here's a little background. Suppose you are the owner of a small company that exclusively manufactures basketball shoes. You employ about 50 employees and have been very successful in the past. But lately you have noticed in the last year that your market share is beginning to shrink. If this trend continues, your company could be bankrupt within a year. You have made the decision to diversify your company and expand beyond manufacturing only basketball shoes to include shoes of other sports. So this model focuses on the actions that are required of the leader, which in this case is you as the owner of the shoe company, in order to facilitate successful change. To understand this change model through the lens of our scenario, you first need to create a sense of urgency. At the pace that your company is losing market share, the looming possibility of bankruptcy creates that sense of urgency. You do not have time to wait to see if your market share will change, as you have 50 employees counting on you for their livelihood. As the owner, you need to help others see the need for change through a bold, aspirational statement that communicates the importance of acting immediately. Build a powerful coalition. This coalition could and probably should consist of your senior level management and other key stakeholders within the company. You want to use this group of people to help create buy-in for the upcoming changes. Use this coalition to guide your change, coordinate it, and communicate with others. Form a strategic vision and initiative. The vision helps you clarify how the future will be different from the past and how you can make that future a reality through initiatives linked directly to the vision. This is important for employees to understand and be reassured that you have a plan and a goal and a direction to reach that goal through your vision. The vision in this scenario specifically outlines to the company what it will look like to change the manufacturing as well as the marketing, the sales, the billing, and all the other departments from only basketball shoes to include shoes of other sports. Each employee needs to see how they fit within the vision and the initiatives to reach it. Once you have communicated the vision and initiatives, you need people to help drive the change. In order to initiate this type of large-scale change, it can only occur when there is a critical mass of people to rally around a common opportunity. They must have buy-in and a sense of urgency to help drive the change. In our scenario, you can help use your coalition and others who seem enthusiastic about the change to help bring about that type of atmosphere to the others. This army is important because there will be those who are fearful of the change and how it might impact them. This army helps others to move through the process. Enable others to act on the vision by removing barriers such as inefficient processes or hierarchies. This provides the freedom that is necessary to work across silos and generate real impact. This is key to moving the change forward and allowing others to feel empowered about how they can be a part of the change. In your shoe company, this could mean providing positive rewards to anyone who helps develop new ways to benefit the company through this change. It can empower anyone to be involved. Generate short-term wins that are recognized, collected, and communicated early and often. This helps track progress and energize a volunteer army to persist with the changes. Use your coalition and volunteer army to help strategize what those wins are and how they can be celebrated. Keep the positive momentum going through what can be a difficult change. Sustain acceleration by pressing harder after generating those first successes. By doing this, you are increasing credibility, and this can lead to improved systems, structures, and policies. This means that it takes work to sustain change, and you must continue fostering an atmosphere where there is a support for the manufacturing of the other sports shoes, not just basketball. And finally, institute the change. This is to articulate the connections between the new behaviors and organizational success, making sure they continue until they become strong enough to replace old habits and become part of the new culture of the organization. Once you have institutionalized the manufacturing and ultimately sales of the new sports shoes, you have arrived at creating sustainable change for your shoe company to help ensure its success into the future. The second change model we will examine is the Beckert-Harris change model, designed in 1977. To explain this change model, assume you are an intercollegiate athlete. You love being part of the team, but find it difficult to get to dinner during the season. Because of facility constraints, your practices typically don't end until 8 o'clock p.m. Unfortunately, the dining hall closes at 8, and the only place to get dinner on campus after 8 is through the cafe that costs you money and typically serves food items that are not very nutritious. It would be so helpful if the dining hall was open until 9 o'clock p.m., and you'd like to see this change happen. Using this mathematical equation as a change model, the model specifies that organizations and individuals change when there is dissatisfaction with the current state, which in this scenario is the lack of access to consistent nutritious dinners and being able to eat dinner in the dining hall during your sports season. There is a clear and shared vision of a preferred future. This is important because you must have a vision of what you want to achieve and be able to communicate that vision to other key stakeholders. In this scenario, the vision you seek is to have the dining hall open until 9 o'clock p.m. Third, there is an acceptable first step or a roadmap to achieving the vision. Some examples to creating this roadmap in this scenario might include determining and involving all the stakeholders. For example, are there other student athletes on other teams that are being impacted? Or are there other student groups on campus who would benefit? Second, decide who needs a seat at the table to help create a plan. For example, who are the leaders in those other groups? What is student government's role? And how can you bring these people together? Third, what are the steps to move the plan through the college channels? So these first steps are really the crux of the plan to help move your vision forward. The fourth part of the equation is that the product of D times V times F must be greater than any existing resistance to the change among those whose support is required for successful implementation. In this example, there could be resistance from the administration due to additional costs. Or how could this change impact the staff and other workers in the dining hall? Any areas of resistance will need to be identified and overcome in order for the change to occur. This change formula also implies that all three elements on the left side, the dissatisfaction, the vision, and the first steps, must be present for change to occur. If any element is missing, the product of multiplication is 0, which will always be less than the resistance to change and ultimately will not allow the change to occur. This model is helpful, especially for students who would like to initiate a change. It mathematically helps us understand what needs to happen in order for change to occur. Our time together today is just about up. The discussion of change management started us with theory and the introduction of Kurt Lewin and his ICE model. And then we examined two change models through two different sport management scenarios. I do hope that our time together today was beneficial in helping you to understand change management from a sport management perspective and how you can help yourself and others when confronted with change, either through your profession or life in general. I hope that this discussion helps you to understand the importance of managing change and doing so through a systematic approach. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and please reach out if you have any questions or clarifications about the discussion.